what are the big three developments this week? Um, Cameron mentioned in the intro, it's OBBBA, the London trade talks, and the U.S. unrest. Um, and I think, in terms of the bigger picture narrative, what this era we're progressing through, how do you square everything here to make sense? Let's try to do that first. Um, all of these things are these three things here are kind of separate streams, but they're all converging onto one thing. And I think if you actually, um, I'll explain, my framework for how I view, these key developments are progressing. What's actually going on, right? Because if you just tune in to, CNBC or Fox News or whatever, or even your front page kind of headlines from New York Times to Financial Times, et cetera, it's very difficult to make sense of what in the world is going on here. So I'll try to add some perspective here on the geopolitical front, what's actually happening, and then translate that into what's going on in capital markets with treasuries being kind of front and center this week. So to start, the OBBBA Act, what is this? This is actually, as everybody knows, November 5th, we had a Republican sweep, House, Senate, and President. Um, and this is part of their kind of, I guess, the legislative change, right? We're going to get a budget for the federal government for next fiscal year, which starts on October 1, I believe is the actual cutoff date. The fiscal year ends on end of September for the US technically. Um, so everything we've been running, just for context, on a spending plan has been kind of operating under what the prior Congress and administration agreed to, right? Which was totally different set of power brokers, with the keys to the car. So this OBBBA is the kind of the first kind of fiscal year you'll see where this new policy regime comes in town and sets its priorities for federal government spending. We know in general what that's going to look like, right? With you know what's proposed in OBBBA at this point, you might see some negotiations, some sanding down of individual details. You'll hear like the SALT, state and local taxes deduction. Maybe there's some wiggle room left on that, to get whatever votes you need to achieve consensus and pass this thing through the House and ultimately work its way through the DC apparatus. But by and large, you know what you're going to get. Like it's already in there. You're going to get cuts to federal programs for things like Medicaid, food stamps, et cetera. That the government and a fiscal challenge, as it's kind of broadly accepted that the government finds itself in our current era. You got to find ways to cut somewhere, and this is the sad facts of reality. There's certain things that DC is willing to cut, and certain things that it can't cut. Things like interest payments, right? What the bond market charges you to fund yourself, the federal budget. There's things like defense, where, well, in a time of geopolitical conflict, which is becoming more and more pressing, almost by the week, with each one of these weekly roundups we record, uh, you know, pulling away from national security and defense seems like a tough pill to swallow in times of conflict. And then you get into like Social Security, which is, to change that one, right? It's going to need its own legislative process to actually implement and achieve reform, which may be down the road, but that's not going to happen this summer. And then that leaves you with sad facts of the matter. What gets cut? Well, it's the spending on support programs for the people in society who have the least ability to absorb it, right? So this is just the I mean, the sad situation that this is. I don't see any easy way to make everyone happy. And there's definitely like parties in America, U.S. economy, who are going to be left out. So um, definitely don't want to sound inconsiderate to certain groups and constituencies who are,
Most
reliant on
affected by
government
these.
support, government
Yeah.
programs. Yep. But this is the facts of the matter are like the OBBBA. It's almost certain bound to happen. Like we have to get some sort of reconciliation or spending bill. But I mean, I don't think it's controversial to say this, but not a hot take. The U.S. government is going to continue to exist next fiscal year. It will raise Treasury debt. We will see the debt ceiling raised. It's just a matter of that uh, process working through the DC Beltway. Now, adjacent to that, you've got what's going on with these London talks um, between the two largest economies in the world, where the way I view this, you've got a renegotiation underway of the original, Nixon agreement with China to open up relations in 1973, I think it was. So, you see individual issues like, the US has realized, certain rare earth minerals, metals that are key for
Military
electronics,
jets.
magnets,
Yep.
military, et cetera. Yeah, things that the US can't do without. Um, that's part of, um, one of the specific items on these docs, like how on the docket for these talks is how is the U.S. going to continue to source these, at what price, um, and just kind of a renegotiation. Like there's essentially what you're saying is, um, hey China, you've got a new business partnership, a new regime. You need to renegotiate. And what do I mean by that? This isn't the same power faction, like the head of the you know, who's running the show essentially at the top of society. Who is your handshake across the table actually with, if you're the Communist Party in China? Well, I think what's actually going on is you've had a transfer of power from one group who were, running the helm of the American society and economy, you know, during the existing kind of agreement in place from the 1970s up until, you could say, the first Trump administration in 2016 to 2020. But that handover wasn't fully, completed, as you did see a transfer of power back from the Republicans to the Democrats in 2020. I think what we're seeing now is, the Trump team and the political faction that they represent in American society, trying to, entrench themselves and say, hey, no, you got to renegotiate this deal with us for the new terms, because America's under new management for the going concern or for foreseeable future. So that's what I view is going on in London. And then this U.S. unrest that just happens to spur up, right? Why are we seeing riots, um, just pop up spontaneously? And granted, part of it is just summer. Um, you you just think back 4 or 5 years ago, right? Summer of 2020 was also a summer of unrest. Technically, that was the last summer that the Trump administration was in power. So we're seeing another one of those. This may be organic to some degree. There is some, uh, grassroots pushback against the Trump administration and the Republicans in control of Congress and the Senate. But it's also, I don't think this will be controversial, this take, but I don't think it's grounded in reality at all. You're seeing political figures from the opposition stoke and really encourage the unrest. So give and take. But the way I view this is, all right, the new management that's negotiating this deal with China, right? To some degree, this is the action they have. This is the only thing they can do to uh, push back against the success of things like the OBBBA and a uh, new trade agreement, new rules of engagement laid down as far as the economic order between the U.S. and China. So hopefully that adds some clarity to a very muddled, situation that is just developing, day by day in real time. And the reason I titled this "Last Chance to Hit the Exit" is really we're seeing an escalation now, um, and it's starting to look to me like. Uh, did we pass the last exit, right? Before, we head into the, yeah, over the edge, over the precipice, if you will, because, if and when, the violence starts to pick up at these protests or just all it takes is one thing to go the wrong way, um, for like these situations to materialize into something much bigger, right? The next stage of this geopolitical conflict that we're seeing really trickle down into every interaction we have in society, every headline, it seems. Um, it to me feels like we're at like that last stop before, do the leaders from both sides really pull back? Is there an opportunity to create partnerships, between each other? It's seeming more and more to me like that opportunity uh, for some sort of compromise is slowly
It's
slipping
dwindling.
away.
Yeah.
If not already.